Conditional arguments are probably one of the most common types of arguments you will encounter in your academic life. This is because they're simple and effective. A conditional argument will always have its first proposition take the form of a conditional. If P, then Q. The point of this sort of argument will be to get the predicates P and Q to have the same truth value. The second proposition is then stating the truth value of either P or Q. And then the conclusion, which will be the other predicate matching the second proposition's truth value. This leaves us then with 4 options. But are these valid arguments? Let's explore them all. Number 1, modus ponens. If P, then Q. P, therefore Q. Is this a valid argument? Well, let's take an example. If it's raining, then the streets are wet. It is raining, therefore the streets are wet. This is a valid argument. Why? Because it is raining. Our first proposition means that when it is raining, the streets will be wet. So if P is true, then Q must be true. I know this seems obvious, but it does get a bit more, confusing. 2, denying the antecedent. If P, then Q, not P, therefore not Q. Is this argument valid? No. But why? In this scenario, it isn't raining, and we are claiming then that the streets aren't wet. But that doesn't necessarily follow, like if it was raining then the streets would be wet. The streets could still be wet, but from another cause, say a runaway hosepipe.
That's what you're doing with that thing.
3, affirming the consequent. If P, then Q. Q, therefore P. What about this argument? Is it valid? This falls issue to the same problems as denying the antecedent. Just because the streets are wet doesn't mean it's raining. The streets, again, could be wet by any other cause. Perhaps I've been crying on the streets again. Not that ever happens or anything. Anyway, number 4, modus tollens. If P, then Q, not Q, therefore not P. I think you might have gathered from the Latin name that this one is also valid, like the only other valid one, because that also has a Latin name. But why? So we know from our first proposition, if it is raining, then the streets are wet. So we know then that if it were raining, the streets would be wet. But they're not wet, so how can it be raining? It isn't possible. So we can logically conclude that it is not raining. It's not P. That's a basic introduction to conditional arguments. Those are your 4 main types. Affirming the consequent and denying the antecedent are both fallacies, and modus ponens and modus tollens are valid arguments. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember, if you like this video, like, comment and subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications. Follow my socials in the description along with my subreddit, and the Mythology Multiverse Discord is down there too. My TIL vids is down there too if you're on YouTube, and my YouTube if you're on TIL. And as always, I will see you next week, babies.